What's going on, guys? Johnny Mac here, and today I'm bringing you my top 7 tips for progressing through the Ascended Tower of Trials that will help you make that climb to floor 50 for that sweet little achievement on console. Unfortunately for us PC players, we don't get to take advantage of this. Thank you, Gearbox. But here we go. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you're not a current subscriber, and if you are, thank you for your continued support. You can also follow me on these social media platforms where I announce all my upcoming videos, as well as any current and future giveaways that I might have for my channel. And currently I've got a giveaway for a free $25 Amazon e-gift card to current and new subscribers, and I'm sorry guys, this is to subscribers only. I have the rules and the instructions for entering into this giveaway in the description down below. So tip number 1, skirt the outside. Now what I mean by this is that when you're in the tower, especially on the elevator floors, you want to stick to the outside perimeter as much as possible so that way you can get a full view of what's going on around you and you don't have a nice little surprise spawn come in behind you and whack you in the back and possibly even kill you. Tip number 2, Vitality Boon first. Now this is probably just my personal preference, but I find that the Vitality Boon often gives more useful buffs than Spirit or Might. So what I like to do is I like to prioritize Vitality Boons first over Might and Spirit. However, if you're in an early floor and you happen to come across maybe a purple room that offers Spirit or a purple room that offers Might, depending on your build, these may be a better choice than say a green Vitality. However, on the majority, you end up getting these neat little buffs from the Vitality Boons, and that is why I personally go for Vitality first, because they will offer you more utility as you progress up through the upper floors. Tip number 3, Parry and Weak Points. Now these two concepts will take you from an entry-level playstyle to a more expert playstyle very quickly. Now I group these two together because they synergize very well, in that it's easy to proc a weak point whenever you parry an enemy attack. In order to parry an enemy attack, you simply block just before the moment of impact from a normal attack from a mob, and you will automatically parry. The next concept that you'll need to master is locking onto weak points. Weak points offer massive damage bonuses and are especially easy to proc right after you parry an enemy. Weak points can not only be exploited by your normal attacks, but you can also use your northern and southern techniques to lock on and deal massive amounts of damage. The alternative way to force exposing weak points is to use the Surety Augment. This provides a high level of synergy with your build. If you use your northern technique on a boss or a normal mob, it will automatically expose a weak point, and then you are provided a huge damage bonus to your southern technique. Tip number 4, Ailments and Status Effects. Now from what I've been able to tell, there's really not a whole lot of information out there on ailments, and even less so for status effects. There are a great number of status effects, but I'm really only going to touch on 2 in this video, and I might go over more status effects in another video. First, let's touch on ailments. Now as you can see here, I included my ailment chart that I put together so that way you can have a quick reference way of seeing what particular element you need on your weapons and their corresponding ailment. Now here's an important note about ailments. You have to have the proper element on your weapons in order to proc the ailment that you want. Now this is completely aside from any augment that says do this action and you'll receive this ailment. We're not talking about those. Those are a particular action that's specific to an augment that will allow you to proc that ailment without any special weapon modifier. We are talking about if you want to inflict poison, you must have a weapon that has the earth element as its primary element. And as a last important note about ailments, it is important that you reach a 31% or higher chance to inflict that ailment. This is going to give you your most efficient chance of inflicting that ailment that you're trying to apply. And you can synergize your chance to inflict ailments with these 2 augments in order to give yourself a massive boost in damage. Tip number 5 and tip number 4 continued. Dealing with heavies. Now earlier I had mentioned 2 status effects that I wanted to touch on in this video. They're not really labeled as status effects, but considering the fact that they both perform a particular function, I consider them to be status effects, and I think there are ones that are pretty overlooked in the community. I'm talking about Breach, and I'm talking about Blind. Now this is where hammers come in. They have the highest breach rating in the game, and with that being said, in very few hits you can breach the enemy, which will put them in a down state, and while they're in a down state they can't do any damage to you, and if you have the right synergies, you can do bonus damage to breached enemies. And coming full circle into ailments, your ailments, if you do bonus damage to whatever ailment you've applied, you do bonus damage on top of that breach damage. And last but not least, we have Blind, which I find to be a very useful status effect, and I consider it to be one of the best status effects because you don't have to do anything extra to spec into it. You don't have to equip any special weapon. It's always active. All you have to do is simply parry an attack, and every single time you parry an attack, it automatically blinds every enemy that's in that area. Tip number 6, Dreamstones for gear and mats. Now, in order to progress in the Ascended Tower of Trials, you obviously have to get better gear. You're not going to be able to take a bunch of purples and greens and blues and expect to get to floor 50. Is it possible? Sure, absolutely. It probably is, and I'm sure some people have probably done it. But the overall objective is to improve your gear over time and eventually get your end-game build. Now obviously, as you progress through the Dreamstones and you finally get to the last 3, which is the level 58, 59, and 60, those are going to be your bread and butter for gear farming. And on top of that, you'll also need to complete each one prospectively to provide you with the mats such as the Orb of Oblivion to upgrade your gear. Now in all honesty, if you want to farm efficiently, I recommend dropping the difficulty down to easy and completing it there. In this recording I did it on normal and I plowed right through it, so it's completely up to you. But do note that loot doesn't scale based on difficulty, and it doesn't seem to make a difference if it's on hard or normal. You seem to still get the same amount of loot, maybe a piece more, I don't know. Truth be told, with the extra time, it's just not worth it. And for tip number 7, and my final tip for this guide, the Ascended Tower of Trials is fantastic for farming Electrum. There is another method where you can access some little area in a Dreamstone and you use your shield and break a bunch of pots in the room. I don't like this method because you're literally utilizing all your time only farming Electrum. If you farm your Electrum in the tower, you also get gear to go along with it, so you're actually killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and that's why I say the Ascended Tower of Trials is the best Electrum farm in the game. And last but not least, we have our tower exclusive weapons. What makes these weapons so special is that in each weapon category, it can roll 2 primary stats from that category the weapon belongs to. So if you spend some time in the Ascended Tower of Trials farming or just trying to progress, you will eventually pick up one and all of these exclusive weapons. And there you have it, guys. There's my top 7 tips for farming the Ascended Tower of Trials and for progressing to floor 50 like a boss. If you liked this video and you found it helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to be notified when I make future uploads of videos just like this one. And if you are a current subscriber, thanks for your continued support. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.